Thank you for tuning in to the Voice of Adventure. Today we'll be exploring The Monster in My Room, where we will read diary entries from a young kid about a monster that is haunting him. June 7th, 2006. Dear Diary, yesterday I saw the monster for the first time. It was hiding in the darkest corner of my room, staring at me. Its bright white eyes followed me as I moved. When I sat at my desk, I could feel its stare. When I laid in bed, chills ran down my spine as its eyes never left me. This monster didn't move or act. It simply stared at me with unblinking eyes. I told my parents about the monster, but they brushed it off. They said I was too old to be scared of monsters that weren't there. I persisted, insisting that this monster was real and haunting me. But when they came into my room, they saw nothing. I pointed out and they stared right into its eyes, but still, they saw nothing. I kept bringing it up as it felt like I could feel its eyes on me no matter where I went in the house. I could feel those unblinking eyes staring through the walls. The only relief I found was leaving the house. The further I went away from my house, the less I felt its presence. But it was still there when I came back. My parents got fed up with me talking about this monster that wasn't there, so they told me to write about it. They thought it was all in my head, and by writing it down it would leave my mind. So I started this journal. I don't think this will help, as words on a piece of paper won't affect this monster, but it made my parents happy when I agreed. And maybe, after this doesn't help, they'll start taking me seriously. August 19th, 2006. Dear Diary, it has now been over 2 months since I first saw the monster. In that time, it has grown in both size and presence. What was a pair of eyes near the floor has become a monster with long, skinny limbs standing about 2 feet tall. Its body was completely black, perfectly hiding in the shadows. It has started moving around the room after the sun has gone down, making me afraid to leave my bed at night. Every day I've been telling my parents about the monster and how it scares me, how it's been growing, and how it continues to move closer to me. But they still don't take it seriously. They see nothing, so they think it's all in my head. With enough pestering, I convinced them to buy me a nightlight for protection. Now at night, the monster comes to the edge of the light, but no further. I have a small wall of protection, but will this keep me safe? The way the monster stands at the edge staring scares me. It feels like it's patiently waiting to strike. I don't know how long I can survive with this monster in my room. It's hard to sleep at night when I can feel its eyes on me. Often I crawl into my parents' bed to put distance between me and the monster, but even that doesn't keep its eyes off me. I feel those piercing white eyes as I lay next to them. Hopefully my parents start taking this seriously and help me chase this monster away. November 5th, 2006. Dear Diary, the monster has started walking in the light. The nightlight does nothing to stop it anymore. It struggles walking in the light, looking physically in pain, but still it persists. The monster walks all around the room in the light, coming right up next to my bed. It stares at me as I cower under the covers. Thankfully, the sun still makes the monster hide in its corner. I have started going to the library and looking for books on demons and evil spirits, hoping they will tell me how to protect myself. My parents still think I'm going crazy. When I told them I needed books on protection from demons and evil spirits, they said, "Aren't you taking this a bit too far?" Too far? I have a monster in my room! With enough yelling, I convinced them to take me to the library, so at least I could look for a book. Thankfully, the monster can't follow me to the library, so I feel at ease as I search. I pore through the bookshelves searching for anything relating to evil spirits, and eventually found a couple. I spent the next few days reading every last word. Since my parents are unwilling to trust me, I have to take this into my own hands, and I will find a way to get rid of this monster. December 2nd, 2006. Dear Diary, I've been writing in this journal for about 6 months now, and it hasn't changed a thing. The monster still haunts me and continues to grow in size. Now the monster has even started controlling the shadows. Every night I watch as shadows dance across the walls while the monster stares at me with a smile. I can barely sleep. I lay there frozen in fear, hoping the shadows can't reach out for me. In my search, I have found many books about evil spirits, but none of them have helped me get rid of the monster. I'm still hopeful that I will eventually find one that will help, but for now, I have to live with the monster. I have gone to my parents often for help and advice, but they say something is wrong with me. They say I'm too old to be scared of monsters. Last night, I overheard my parents talking. They were talking about me and how they were worried about me. At first, I was excited. They were finally taking me seriously, I thought. But as I continued listening, I realized they weren't worried about the monster, but about my sanity. They discussed how I was going insane, how no one my age is scared of monsters, and that they were going to send me to a psychiatrist to get treated. Hearing all this hurt. They were supposed to be with me. They were supposed to have my back. But they are just labeling me a crazy person. What kind of parents do that? The rest of the night, I laid in bed crying. The monster was still in the room haunting me, but it scared me less than my parents abandoning me. February 22nd, 2007. Dear Diary, the psychiatrist is worse than my parents. I overheard her talking to my parents saying I was delusional, that all of this monster talk was in my head. She claimed I was trying to get attention by creating a fake dangerous scenario for my parents to rescue me from. Why won't anyone believe me? A few days after my first visit to the psychiatrist, the monster started following me everywhere. I would see him out of the corner of my eye as we drove around the city. Sitting in the doctor's waiting room, he would stand in the darkest corner glaring at me. He was much smaller outside. It looked like he'd lost some strength by leaving the house. But that didn't make him powerless. He was now around every corner. I could feel his darkness everywhere I went. I no longer felt safe anywhere. The library, which used to be my safe space, now also housed the monster. I pointed the monster out to my parents a few times, but they never saw it. That only helped solidify their belief that I was mentally unwell. My fear of the monster is growing daily. I have watched it grow from a tiny pair of eyes to a monster standing as tall as me. I watched it go from hiding in the darkness to venturing into the light, and now following me everywhere. No one believes me that this monster exists. I'm alone in my battle against this monster. I have exhausted the library's information about dark spirits, and now I'm left to figure it all out alone. Maybe I'll have to live with this monster forever. It hasn't hurt me yet. Maybe it's harmless. But can I keep my sanity while seeing this monster out of the corner of my eye? Can I live knowing that this thing will haunt me for the rest of my days? May 13th, 2007. Dear Diary, over the past few months, I've tried to accept that this monster will never leave me, but it has not gone well. The monster has grown and now towers over me. Its eyes look through me in a horrifying way. It feels like it can see into the deepest parts of my soul. The monster often smiles wickedly, knowing that only I can see it. All of this has drained the little sanity I had left. My parents have taken me to the psychiatrist a few more times, still thinking I'm delusional. I've given up answering their questions, because when I tell the truth, they don't believe me. I fight my parents every time they force me to go, and when I'm there, I sit in silence, knowing no matter what I say, the psychiatrist will make it fit her agenda. All their unbelief has made me feel so lonely. I don't have the strength to fight this monster on my own, but I have no help. I am just a lone soldier with no weapons. Often, when I'm home alone, I will sit alone in bed and stare at the monster in the shadows. His stares haunt me in my sleep. His presence threatens me. I know he will hurt me eventually, but even if no one believes me, I know he's real. These feelings, his image, the horror I feel can't be fake. But I can't live like this. I tried the last few months, but I'm barely surviving. I have to put an end to this monster. I have to find a way to beat it, to force it to leave, to free my life from its grasp, and I need to do it soon. July 7th, 2007. Dear Diary, I did it! I stood up to the monster. Last night, I had had enough. I was tired of the monster forcing me to live in fear, so I grabbed a toy baseball bat I was given years ago. I pointed the bat at the monster and told him he had to leave. My legs were shaking as I said it, but I forced myself to say it anyway. The monster just chuckled, making me feel weaker than I already was, making me question if I had the strength to stand up to him. But I didn't back down. I swung the bat at the monster, but all my swings missed. Every strike looked good, but somehow I missed every one of them. But I didn't give up. I kept swinging until my arms couldn't swing anymore. With each swing, the monster chuckled louder, laughing at my struggle. Exhausted, I stopped swinging to catch my breath. In a whisper, I said, "I'm not afraid of you." It looked like my words hurt the monster. His white eyes stared at me, but they were full of fear. I said it again, but louder. The monster reeled back in pain, my words severely injuring it. Seeing my words work, I kept repeating the phrase, "I am not afraid of you. I am not afraid of you. I am not afraid of you. I am not afraid of you." With each phrase, the monster looked more in pain. He shrunk back down to the pair of eyes I had first seen. His presence no longer filled the room. His eyes couldn't scare me like they did before. I looked down on this monster without any fear. But no matter how many times I repeated the phrase, it never disappeared completely. The monster was still there in the corner watching me, but he had no power over me anymore. I could stand up for myself now. "You have no power here, because I am not afraid of you." This phrase gave me some control over the monster. Even if he never completely leaves me alone, I now have power over him. September 16th, 2010. Today, I found my son's diary from back when he claimed that there was a monster in his room. I secretly read through it while he was at school, curious as to what was going through his mind during that time. It honestly shocked me. I didn't realize how much it actually scared him. Both my husband and I were convinced he was imagining it or just making it all up. But based on what he wrote, maybe it was real. The details he put into the entries have me wondering if there was actually a monster in his room after all. I just brushed off all of his worries like they were nothing. I left him to defend for himself, calling him crazy for believing there was a monster in the shadows. What have I done to my son? What really worries me is the last entry in his journal. He wrote about standing up for himself and being freed from the power of the monster. But there was one more entry in the journal. I turned the page and saw what looked like chicken scratches. It was hard to make out, but I think it said, "I will always be watching." Thank you for listening to The Voice of Adventure. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to follow wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also keep up with the stories and behind-the-scenes content on Instagram at Josiah the Author. Join me as we continue these adventures. See you in the next story.